Hello, Moira here. This tutorial in the Daisy Sampler series is looking at the finishing edge. So let's look at the colour for each finishing edge that the different versions use. In this bright version, we use the last colour that we used in section 6 for our finishing edge. The muted version uses the same colour that we used in the repeating pattern throughout the blanket. And in the tapestry version, we use the same colour that we used in the repeating motif on section 5. And as this series of video tutorials have been demonstrating the muted version, I will be using the colour from my muted version. You have the choice as to whether to use a twisted single crochet stitch or the crab stitch. Whichever one you use is worked into the back loop only. We're just going to look at some samples that I've previously worked. The blue one is a twisted single crochet, and I know that it's a twisted single crochet because it's leaning to the left. And the black version is a crab stitch, and again I know it's a crab stitch because it's leaning to the right. Both stitches are giving us that firm whipped edge that I'm looking for. Which one you use is really a personal preference. I'm going to demonstrate in this tutorial how to work both. If you haven't worked either of these stitches before, I would recommend work a sample of each one so that you know which stitch you feel most comfortable using. The first stitch I'm going to demonstrate is going to be the crab stitch. Now when I work a crab stitch, I always go down a hook size. Again, this is a personal preference. You can actually do a little sample with the different hook sizes and see yourself which one you prefer. You can start any stitch that you want, and we start as we usually do by inserting our hook into the back loop and joining our new yarn with a chain stitch. So first we're inserting our hook into the stitch to the right of our work. So insert our hook, and now we're going to wrap the yarn around our hook and pull the yarn through the stitch. I'm just going to check that I've got 2 stitches on my hook. There we go, I've got 2 stitches on my hook, so yarn round and through both those stitches. Can be quite tight getting through those stitches. So to repeat, insert your hook in the stitch to the right, wrap the yarn around your hook and pull through. Can you see there's a slight twisting motion going on there? Check that I've got 2 stitches, yarn around and pull through. So it's insert hook, wrap the yarn around and pull through. I've only got 1 stitch on my hook there, can you see that? So that's quite an easy mistake to make, so all I'm going to do is pull the stitch back and start again. Starting again. Hook through that back loop, wrap the yarn round and pull through. Check that you've got 2 stitches on your hook, yarn round and pull through. So hook in, wrap the yarn round, check that you've 2 stitches and yarn through. And that's how we work crab stitch. So we can see crab stitch is going to the right of our crochet instead of normally working to the left as we usually do. I'm going to continue working my crab stitch, and when I get to the corner I'll show you how we go round the corner. When we get to the corner, there's no adding 2 chains. We're just continuing to work our crab stitch round the corner, and we're actually working the crab stitch into the 2 chains from the previous round. I've now reached the 2 chains at the corner, so I'm going to insert my hook into the center of that first chain, wrap the yarn round and pull through, and yarn round and pull through the first 2 stitches. And the next chain stitch, again we're going into the center of the stitch, wrapping your yarn round and making sure you have 2 stitches, and then through again, and that's us around the corner. So no extra chains, just working our crab stitch into those corner 2 chains. So continue down this side working with your crab stitch. Hopefully you'll get into a nice rhythm working with it. I'm going to stop there to let you see what the corner looks like, and you can see how we've just nicely gone round the corner, no chains, no gaps. Now if you're a bit of a neat freak, you might not like this stitch because it is quite difficult to get it completely even. But it has given us a really nice firm edge, which is what I was looking for with this stitch. We're now going to look at how to work the twisted single crochet stitch. So when I'm working twisted single crochet, I work with the same hook size that I did in the body of the blanket. And remember, this way we're actually going the way we normally do when we're crocheting. We're working to the left. Insert your hook into the top loop of any stitch and join your yarn with a chain stitch. Insert your hook as usual into the next stitch and pull through. Keep that yarn quite slack and then twist your hook anti-clockwise. Let's just repeat that. So it's quite slack our yarn, and then we twist our hook anti-clockwise. We then yarn round and pull through those 2 stitches in our hook. So here we go again, yarn through, keep it quite slack, twist anti-clockwise, 2 stitches still in our hook, can be a bit tight, and then yarn over and pull through. So to repeat, hook through, yarn over and pull through, keep it quite slack, twist the hook anti-clockwise and yarn over and pull through those 2 stitches. So it's insert the hook, pull the yarn through and keep it quite slack, twist the hook anti-clockwise, then yarn over and pull the yarn through the 2 stitches, and then we keep repeating this. And when we get to the corner, we treat those 2 chains as though they're any other stitches. We go into the center of the chain, pull our yarn through, twist our hook, and then pull through as usual. So remember, into the center of the chain, insert your hook and pull yarn through, twist the hook, and carry on working the stitch as we normally would. I'm just going to work a few more stitches before stopping to let you see what the corner looks like. And now we can see what the corner looks like on our twisted single crochet. And we've got that nice firm whipped edge, which is what we're looking for. And here's both our samples. We have our twisted single crochet stitch pointing to the left and our crab stitch leaning over to the right. The end result of both of them is to give us that firm whipped edging. That's what we're looking for. Really, which one you use is just a personal preference. We're now going to look at how to join the beginning to the end of both stitches. I'm just about back at the beginning here. This is a twisted single crochet sample. You should know that because I'm twisting my hook and I'm actually working to the left. You can see here that if I connect this stitch to the normal stitch the way I normally would do it, I've actually got a bit of a white gap showing. So I'm going to work into that stitch the chain stitch is actually in. So your last twisted single crochet stitch will be in the same stitch that your chain stitch is in. I've now completed that last stitch, snipped my yarn, so now I'm going to pull the yarn through. So I'm looking to join my yarn into the back of the chain stitch. So I'm going to thread up my needle and then insert my needle into the back of that first chain stitch. So we don't normally use the chain stitch, normally use the first stitch, but the chain stitch will give us that neater join. To be honest, you can actually join any of the stitches, but the chain stitch will give you the neatest one. We then are going to just weave our ends in as we normally would. Now we've got a nice invisible join on our twisted single crochet stitch sample. We're now going to go and look at how to create an invisible join in our crab stitch sample. So, looking at our crab stitch sample, I've only a few more stitches to actually work before I'm ready to join my end to my beginning stitch. That stitch there is the stitch that I actually used for my chain stitch. I'm going to work a crab stitch into that stitch, and that will be my last stitch. Now I'm ready to snip my yarn off and pull through. Thread a tapestry needle with a cut piece of yarn, and then we're going to use that piece of yarn that we've got left to connect to that first crab stitch. So we're inserting your needle into the top of that first crab stitch. And now we've just got our ends to weave in as we normally would. And there we go, we can see what our crab stitch edging looks like with our slant to the right. As you can see, both the crab stitch and the twisted single crochet stitch work. It really doesn't matter which stitch you use, so just use whichever stitch you feel most comfortable working. And now you've completed your daisy sampler. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed working on all my different versions. Your daisy sampler may now need blocking. All three of mine definitely did. So if you're unsure about blocking, you can watch me block my muted daisy sampler over in the blocking video. This is the last tutorial in the daisy sampler series. Thank you so much for watching them. If you found them useful, please do subscribe to Daisyknots channel. Thank you.